Mercedes-Benz Virtual GP 2020. 10 teams. 20 drivers. To test their skills at 12 circuits in iRacing. 7 online races, 4 studio races with driver changes, and a big finale with a live audience at the 4 Games Expo.
There it is! There it is! And he is absolutely thrilled, and I'm thrilled for him. For turns 6 and 7, oh, a bit of a bump between them! Oh no!
Drivers will face 2 different cars, GT3s and modern single-seaters.
Hockey in the middle, side by side to the Casio triangle. Oh my goodness me, a little bit of an impact.
The 6th season of VGP begins on March 28th with a doubleheader at Imola and Daytona. We are back. Hello and welcome to the Mercedes-Benz Virtual GP 2020 season. We're back after a very long winter to start a brand new chapter of Virtual GP with lots of changes for this season, but we'll get into that in just a bit. My name is Justin Sutton and I'll be taking you through all the action today. And one thing that hasn't changed is the man alongside me for today's race. It's none other than Chris Buxton.
I am so glad to be back in this seat once again, and what a calendar we have got lined up for this 2020 season, and we are starting here at the Italian Classic of Imola. Switching over to iRacing, as you can see, a brand new simulator, lots of new drivers on board with us as well. 12 races split into 2, so the GT3s and the single seaters, brand new point system, and a bonus point for fastest lap. So there's so much for our drivers to have to contend with. There's going to be so much to look forward to. I can barely get all the words out in time.
We're going to have 12 races in total, 7 online events, all drivers together for 45-minute long races, and then 2 studio events. Fingers crossed on that one with driver changes. Each driver must drive at least 25% distance of the race. Only 1 driver allowed in qualifying. So again, as we were talking about before, lots of big changes ahead for the 2020 season. Again, there are some things that could cause some issues along the line through this calendar, but we're going to do our absolute best to make sure we go to all of the races and provide all of the action that everybody at home is looking for. So just talking to you guys through some of the cars that you can expect to see in this year's races. We kick things off with the Mercedes Amg Gt3, a car we are familiar with at Virtual GP from 2015. It is a GT3 racing car with 500 horsepower, capable of going over 170 miles per hour from that 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8, which sounds absolutely fantastic. Then in phase 2, we've got the 2018 Dallara Indy Car, which weighs only 735 kilograms and produces 700 horsepower from its 2.2 liter V6 twin turbo. It also has a 6-speed transmission capable of going over 230 miles per hour.
Representing Benzina Orland team is returning Martin Stefenko, and the newcomer alongside him is Eric Vizzi, a established team and established names.
Thrustmaster car, one of my favorite looking cars. Love those red stripes down the side. They got the Pachata brothers, driving for them this year once again.
Lenovo Legion return to us as well. Daniel Pastor is with them alongside established name Pavel Rigel. Can't wait to see what they can do.
Driving the Logitech car this season, it is going to be Simon Kovacic alongside Peter Kujela. A bit more white in that livery this year compared to what we saw in 2019.
Newcomers to the season, the ESET team is Thomas Carney and Martin Siratek. New blood, but very fired up and ready to go.
Driving for Mogul, it is the defensive mastermind of Michael Blazek. He will be partnered by the other Koreny, brother of Matej Koreny.
For Autoskoda Nobe, it is Jan Sikora, a name very familiar to these parts, and Peter Kovarek. A new pairing, can't wait to see what they can do.
And driving the TP Link car, it is Lucas Bateja, and alongside him is the veteran Martin Kostulik, who we've seen improve over the years.
And finally, the Dexfin car, it is Stanislav Zenol and Josef Vakulchik. New pairing, new team, new blood. Can't wait to see them get stuck in.
And for Big Shock, it is Stepanovsky who will be partnering Thomas Hora in the yellow liveried machine.
Kicking things off is this amazing track at Imola, right at the high time of the afternoon. It is 3 miles, 4.8 kilometers, and it is bone dry and very, very warm, particularly trackside. So that would normally be a big problem for the tyre eating cars. The GT3s do tend to handle their tyres pretty well. Here we are then. The grid. So Pastor and Kovacic round out the front row, then Matea and Vizi. Lots of familiar and new names will be accompanying us in this grid. Then it is Lucas Pachada and Matej Koreny, along with Thomas Koreny. So we've got a pair of brothers this time, the Koreny brothers being one of them. And then Stanislav Zenol in 8th position, and then Jan Sikora and Thomas Hora for the first race, taking the back row, but only 1.5 seconds from top to bottom. Very, very nice indeed.
A very close grid of drivers as we prepare to go racing for the first round of the 2020 season, and it is in the Mercedes AMG Gt3 cars, and we are away. It looks like a great start, actually, for the Thrustmaster in the background. They're already shooting up into 3rd position, but the Lenovo Legion car as well getting a great start from pole position and leads the way as they make their way through the chicane for the first time in today's race. We do have an hour of racing ahead of us, and again, we did see in qualifying just how close it was, so we are expecting a lot of battles to be going on the track. Having a look at one of the new cars, that's the ESAC car at the moment, doing very well and just looking very nice out there, but everybody is cleanly through the first handful of corners or so here, Chris.
Very nice indeed as they come through Toza and beginning to go up the hill. So now you can see who is representing which team. Now, as a reminder, this would have been a studio event, but of course with the current issues going on in the world, this was done online, but still the driver swaps are going on. So whilst each team is represented, they will still have both drivers in the cars. They will swap over during the race. So fear not, you will see all 20 drivers represented. So it is Pastor leading the way in the Lenovo Legion car with Kovacic in the Legion car. Look at the gap. It's already 1.5 seconds that Pastor's got for himself up front, but that can change in the blink of an eye. This track is very, very challenging. You don't have any really long straights, with the exception of from Ravazza, the last double left-hander that we're just coming down to. Here is Hora for the Big Shock team coming down to that double left-hander. Again, it's very easy to barrel off into the dust there. And, you know, this is the only straight where any driver can kind of, quote, relax, and that's a very relative term, especially when the pack is this close. Here is Thomas Koreny, one of the pairs of brothers that we have in the ESET car, right in the middle of the pack, and look at this! That is Hora in the Big Shock car having a crack at Jan Sikora, who's defending from 2 attacks as the Mogul car of Koreny, and he's made it stick. The Mogul car shot through, has nailed the pair of them.
Wow, impressive stuff.
Oh, trouble!
Yep, yeah, and that's Mateja. He's in the TP link. That's going to drop him right down into last position, moving down into 10th position. I don't think any massive damage for that car or anything like that, but he is going to lose quite a bit of positions and time and some pride as well, too, if we're totally honest. But looking again at Korony in 7th position, doing well in that mogul racing car, as we saw, making up a couple of positions, actually, in one move, looking a little bit further up the road to another brother. This is Lucas Pachada in the Thrustmaster car again, who got that fantastic start at the beginning of the race. Now finds himself in a battle for 2nd place. Here is a replay of what happened there. Yep, I think that's just a little bit of a racing incident there. It's unfortunate, but like I said, I don't think any major damage on that car, so should be able to continue without too much of an issue. Again, on board with Pachada in 3rd position, running very close to Kovacic up ahead in that Logitech car, so we could see a potential battle for 2nd position start to go on. It's essentially already going on, but we might start to see some side-by-side action. But meanwhile, Pastor up ahead in the Lenovo Legion car, really starting to break away, now more than 2 seconds of a gap, Chris.
He's had an absolute cracker in the Lenovo Legion car, and Pastor's the rookie of the pair. Now, I'm fairly sure that the teams are split up into one rookie and one experienced driver. Which order they run their drivers in is entirely up to them. There's no rule to say that all the rookies must come out in the first stint. The only rule being that they must share at least 25% of the race, so it's not like the experienced driver can do all but one lap and then the rookie just comes out and takes a checkered flag. Nothing like that. They must have a pretty substantial share of the drive ahead of them. So that is an absolute rule. Here is Horror in the Big Shot car. One of our newcomers, Thomas Horror, is really hounding the back of Jan Sikra. So Jan is a returning driver. Those that have seen us for the last few seasons will be certainly familiar with his name, and he is really making him work for it. Well, we've seen already in this race that Thomas Horror is not afraid to really get stuck into a fight and really make a challenge where he can. And right now, he is putting the pressure onto Jan Sikra. Oh, Jan, little bit scruffy coming out of Aqua Minerali, now coming into the Variante Alta. Unless you have an absolute dive of champions in there, that's not really an overtaking spot. But down into Rivazza, which is where we saw these guys crossing swords before. If you get Rivazza wrong, you're going to open the door for the guy chasing you. So Jan Sikra has got it all to do. Equally, a bit of a thought for Matej and the TP Link car. We saw have that particular incident. He's just got to keep his head level, which is very difficult to do when you've just had a spin, particularly in a series as important as this, with the prizes that are available to these guys. It's difficult to kind of handle that level of pressure. You just need to keep a level head, just keep hitting his marks, just keep chipping away at the gap ahead of him. He's not defending from anyone, so he could, he was 3rd on the grid, as you can see on that particular graphic, so he's got the pace there. He could chip away at that gap if he just keeps it. Easy for me to say in the commentary box, I absolutely grant you. But, he could yet become part of this race as the race goes on. And equally, somebody else could fly off the road. Again, Horror having a look on the inside, coming into the Villeneuve chicane. It's possible, very difficult. And, Jan Sikra had a great exit from that chicane. Toza, which is this hairpin here, is a great overtaking opportunity. But not for Thomas Horror this time around. So doing a great job in his debut race in this season.
Yeah, looking fantastic. And for those that are a bit curious, who are familiar with the series and are used to seeing Sikra a little bit further up the order, because usually, historically, I would say he's more of like a front half of the grid sort of guy, but here he is defending for what used to be the penultimate position up until that TP Link car went for a spin. So it's a bit strange, but of course we are on a new platform. We switched over from Assetto Corsa over to iRacing, so things are a little bit different. It's going to throw a bit of a spanner in the works for some of these drivers. Some people will be very accustomed to the physics that we've had in previous seasons and may struggle to get used to these new physics that we're having on iRacing here. So that's why we're seeing a little bit of a pace difference, I think, on Sikra. I don't think his talent has reduced or anything along those lines. I assume he's just as dedicated as he was in previous seasons. It's just, he may not be getting along well with the iRacing physics just yet. Maybe just some more practice is all he needs to to feel a little bit more comfortable in that car as he's coming under heavy attack now from Hora, who is coming behind. Oh, he left that very late to move over to the left-hand side of the circuit, trying to defend the inside line from the big shot car, moving back over to the right-hand side as they get into the braking zone for Tamburello, and he does manage to hold on to that position, but I would imagine Thomas Hora is probably not super thrilled about that chop across his front end.
Well, no, he may be a little bit perturbed by that, but Jan Sikora, again, that's a statement of intent from him. You're going to have to work hard to do this one, but Thomas Hora is doing a brilliant job. Oh, there he goes on the inside of Toza, but can't quite get it done. It's not a very long run from the Villeneuve chicane down to Toza, so it's difficult, but most certainly possible. There you see, that's Corony in the mogul car just going out of the shot. So, yeah, a lot of new names. I'm looking at that big shot car, and actually it reminds me of the original Lenovo Legion paint scheme, if you recall that far back, before it went to the blue on black, which is a great livery. Good job on the big shot car. Oh, he's at it again. He's very strong through the twisty section. He's able to... I wonder if he's running a little bit more downforce, but because he's running in that slipstream, it's not hurting him. So I wonder if that's how Hora is hanging on in there.
Yeah, I think that might be the case, as we had a brief look at Thomas Corony there. It looked like he was making a move on Pachada, but here we go once again between Sikora and Hora, side by side once again through those double left-handers to round out the lap. Again, having a look at Corony in that new ESET car. Lovely livery on that one. I have to say I really do enjoy that color with the stripe off-center. The off-center stripe looks fantastic. Really good-looking cars that we have this season, and making good use of the flexibility of getting those paints into iRacing, looking fantastic. And Senol in 6th position, trying to chase down the Benzina car up ahead. We can see pretty similar lap times on the previous lap. Once again, turning to this battle for 8th position. Sikora still defending. He's got just under 51 minutes plus a lap of racing still to go in this race, and so far he's done a whole lot of defending from this big shot car. I can imagine this is going to get a little bit tiresome rather quickly if he's having to do this for the rest of this hour-long race, so he might be getting a bit bothered about it. But as we said, as you said, Chris, in particular, it's still a long old race, still plenty of laps to go, so I imagine Sikora is kind of just settling in for the long haul, thinking about picking up points wherever he can, and potentially thinking about gaining some positions later on in the race.
Also, Matea is catching them fairly quick. Yes. Good. There you just saw the top of his car in the shot. And look at Jan Sikora. He feels the need to defend the line coming into Variante Alta.
Yeah.
Again, it's a very hard move to make into that particular chicane, but he still felt the need to defend it. He's really feeling the pressure. I'm really, really impressed from the rookie of Hora, as Jan Sikora doing a great job of fending off the attacks from the big shot car. Again, you were now seeing that TP-Link car of Matea getting into the shot farmer regularly. There he is, and here we go again. Is Hora, can he get a decent run? He was very close to the back of Jan Sikora, so he couldn't have picked up much of a slipstream. So this is just going to be a straight drag race all the way down. Oh no, he's had to duck behind. And again, Jan Sikora doing just enough defending, but he's left the inside open, and there goes Hora. Can he slow that one down? And he does. He has managed to make the move stick. Again, this is what makes me think he's running a little more downforce than Sikora is. So he's managed to slow that one down quite nicely, as Carney in the mogul car has come into the pits for what we'd assume is a scheduled stop. I think he was caught up in that early incident with Matea. Oh my goodness, Jan Sikora. That was a little far back to be making that move, but fair effort there. Now this is going to be interesting to see how well, now the tables have turned, how well can Hora hang on to what is now 7th position.
He certainly seemed like the faster car the entire time that he was behind, but sometimes you have the benefit of being the car behind, and it becomes easier to know where to brake and how hard to brake and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see if he's able to break away. He hasn't been able to do it so far in this lap, but he's just starting to, I think, as you said, he just seems that little bit quicker through Aqua Minerale on the run into Variante Alta. So he's using lots of the curbing there through that chicane, and you can see now he's starting to build a little bit of a gap to Sikora behind. And here comes the TP Link car in the background. Mateja is not that far behind. He's going to be looking to get past Sikora as quickly as he can. Again, as you mentioned, Chris, started from third position on the grid, went for a bit of a spin, got sent down to the back, seems to not have any damage or very little damage as a result of that incident. You can see his rear wing is a bit askew. However, I don't think it's having a huge effect on the performance of that TP Link car, because you can see he's closing up rather massively and is, I think, going to be pressuring for that 8th place position pretty quickly. And Blazek, of course, is now in that mogul car, and he is certainly a veteran of this series. We all know about Blazek. We're used to seeing him defending rather than attacking. He finds himself in 10th position, but that early stop could put them, the mogul car, into the a few positions higher after all the pit stops have worked themselves out, and then we might get to see Blazek do exactly what Blazek usually does, which is defend. So that should be one to watch out for.
Glad to see Michael Blazek back in the ranks, this time with the mogul team. So we'll see how well he can make his way through the field as we look at Thomas Corney in the ESET car and also new debutant Eric Visi in the Benzina Orland car. Still sporting the red and white livery, looking good as always. A little bit further up the road is Lucas Pichada in the Thrustmaster car, and just behind them is, again, debutant to the series of Zenol in the Dex Swing car. So these cars are kind of equidistant apart. Well, there you go, that graphic roughly shows they are almost equidistant. So it's 1.2 from between Pichada and Corney, just under a second between Corney and Visi, and then 1.4 to Zenol. So that's a fairly close-ish pack that could very well bunch up if someone makes a mistake in that. I'm actually surprised the mogul car has remained in the pits that long, so he's obviously had some damage or had an incident to deal with. He's been in the pits quite a while. Yeah. It'll be a shame if that is unrecoverable, but we will see. Also looking at the times, Matea is right on the back of Sikora. Hopefully we'll catch up with him very, very shortly. Also, I was very surprised to see how quickly Mateja caught up, considering he does have that damage on the back. These things, the GT3s don't rely on downforce an awful lot. Now the mogul car gets underway of Michael Blazek. There he is. So now the growling, that beautiful growling noise you hear of the engine from the Mercedes GT3 is going to be supplemented by Michael Blazek's own growling, I suspect, as he tries to make up some time, but he's got a long way to make up. However, everyone still has their pit stops to do. We know how good he is, Michael Blazek, and that's the view from the TP Link car on the back of the Node car of Jan Sikora. So, and look at the gap as well that Horror has managed to build up in the Big Shot car. That's 2.1 seconds between those two, so he's really getting into his rhythm as well. So it does bring the question, how much time did he lose behind Jan Sikora?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say he lost at least a couple of seconds. We did expect that he was going to start to pull away. Oh, no way you're going to do that into the chicane. Nope, thought better of it. Decides to hang behind.
Rear wing.
Yeah, no, I certainly wouldn't want to experience what that feels like. So this battle for 8th position. Sikora is defending from the TP Link car of Mateja and doing his best to try and deal with that, but through the double left-handers they go. TP Link car closing up ever so slightly. Again, this is going to be the primary overtaking location. This is the longest flat-out section of the circuit. We saw this before previously, though. If you're forced to the right-hand side, or excuse me, the left-hand side of the circuit, what looks like the right-hand side, you end up having to go the long way because it's not quite a straight, but it looks like the TP Link car does have the straight line speed. Still is alongside, but no, I spoke too soon. Didn't quite get alongside before they got into the braking zone, and will have to hang behind for the meantime. So Sikora continues to defend successfully from that TP Link car behind. Impressive stuff from the veteran, looking very quick. Oh, as Pastor, our race leader, sets the fastest lap of 141.5, over 2 seconds of a lap quicker than these two cars on our screen now, Chris.
That's a cracker. Pastor just reminding us he's still with us. It's been a while since we've seen him. Front now leads away by 5.7 seconds. Over a veteran such as Kovacic, that is nothing to scoff at all. That's an absolutely cracking way to make a big statement of intent in your debut race here at VGP, and he started on the pole as well. So that's not pace by accident. That's not a gifted position. He has earned that as we now look at Eric Vizzi in the Benzina Orlan car, still chasing down Thomas Carney in the ESET car. So those two have been getting a little bit closer. Last time around, you can see the last laps at the bottom of the screen. Vizzi was a couple of tenths quicker than Carney, so he's close enough to be a little bit uncomfortable in the mirrors of the ESET driver of Carney. So he will have to start thinking about what Vizzi's doing. Let's have a look at the lap times this time around. Nope, we're going to switch back to Sikora and Mateja. Again, you can see their lap times, again highlighting what Justin was saying earlier, that the difference between that and Pastor's time is quite an alarming gap. Oh, what might have been if Mateja, who was third on the grid, as a reminder, where might he be had he not have had that early spin?
Yeah, certainly I would imagine he would at the very least be involved in the battle for a third position, if not, solidly in third position. It certainly seems like Pachada is going very well, Corney's going very well, Vizzi's going very well in that Benzina as well. So not some huge gaps at the moment. Senal in the deck spin going very well as well, just a couple of seconds behind that Benzina. Oh, up the inside goes the TP Link car, and actually he gets it done. That was very nicely done. I think Sikora just losing the back end ever so slightly there, and I think that just kind of opened up the door for the TP Link of Mateja to go through and up into 8th position. And still yet to pit, of course. Again, the only car that we've seen come into the pit so far is the Mogul car, and they did their driver swap already for Michael Blazek, the veteran, taking over down in 10th position, but we'll see whether some fresh tires might make the difference. Essentially an undercut pit stop for the Mogul team might make the difference as far as some positions in this race potentially. Having a look again at Thomas Corney, who is holding on to that 4th place position, not that far behind Lucas Pachada, so and the Benzina car right behind as well. So in fact, these have been closing up, and indeed Kovacic is not that far up the road. You could just see Kovacic there. Or was that was that Blazek in the Mogul car? No, I don't think it was. So yeah, that's Kovacic, not that far up the road. It's only about 3 seconds at the moment. But meanwhile, that Lenovo Legion car of Pastor continues to extend the gap. It's now almost 7 seconds here, Chris.
What a great start for Pastor in, again, representing Lenovo Legion brilliantly well. So the Logitech car of Kovacic is comfortably as comfortable can be ahead of this particular pack. But Pachada now has his mirrors absolutely full of Thomas Corney. How many times did these two fight? The season's gone. Many, many, many is the answer to that. These two know the deal. You could argue the unknown quantity is Eric Vizzi in the Benzina Orlan car behind them, but we'll see how well he does. He's done a good job hanging on to the back of these two, but now we'll start to see whether this has been pace management, pace or tyres management, what have you, or whether this has been as much as they can possibly get away with, foot to the floor. It's difficult sometimes to tell whether people are managing their pace, just going through the numbers, just hitting the point, or whether they've been absolutely pushing hard. As we look at Mateja on the back of Jan Sigurd, this will be the move into Toza. This is the chicane before. This is the Villeneuve chicane. This is what set up the move into Toza. And wait for it. There he goes. And there is what's, as you said, the tail just got light. I think Jan Sigurd may have braked a little late. Mm-hmm. He may have seen the move Mateja. He's easy to say in hindsight he could have done this, but when you're there, when you suddenly see someone's car become very big in the mirrors, and they're alongside, because they do have spotters out there to alert them when a car is alongside them. So he could have been informed that a car was alongside. He realised he couldn't shut the door as much as he would have liked, and that then may well have just sort of made him not necessarily panic, but hit the brakes a little bit too hard. The tail got loose, and then that was all the invitation that Mateja needed to take that 8th position, and he's built himself up about 1.5 seconds just over between himself and Jan Sigurd as we continue to look at this 3, 4, 5 battle. 3rd, 4th, 5th battle with Pachada, Corney and Vizzi. I think the ESET car is falling slightly off the back of the Thrustmaster car at the moment, but not by very much. As now Vizzi should start to become interested. And yet you're quite right, the car you see up ahead is indeed Kovacic in the Logitech car. That isn't the Mogul car. So now this trio becomes a quartet.
Yep, I was just about to say, Kovacic is actually starting to fall into the clutches of this battle for third position that Pechada is currently leading. Kovacic is now just 1.4 seconds ahead of Pechada, and in fact, I think Pechada might be picking up a bit of a slipstream on the start-finish straight as we make our way through those two left-handers of Hrvatsa and come onto the start-finish straight. Now, it's a fairly large rear wing on these Mercedes AMG GT3 cars, so I think it's very likely that Pechada is just getting the beginnings of a bit of a slipstream coming off of that Logitech car up ahead. Again, that gap is definitely coming down. It actually increased a little bit on the start-finish straight. Meanwhile, Pastor in the Lenovo Legion car, looking very comfortable, now has a 9-second gap. So remember, that was actually about 7 seconds not that long ago. So I think indeed there's some sort of issue for Kovacic. Potentially the tires have started to fall off of that Logitech car and just put him into the clutches of Lucas Pechada in third position, because we can see the gap is increasing between first and second, decreasing between second and third. So to me, that means Kovacic is starting to slow down ever so slightly. A 141.6 last lap for Pastor, though. That is an absolutely incredible lap time from Daniel Pastor. I imagine he is doing a fantastic job of keeping those tires in check to be able to be putting in lap times that quick when we're already 24 to just over 23 minutes through this race, and he's still putting in lap times like that. Truly incredible stuff. Pechada has now gotten that gap down to about 1.4, 1.3 again to Kovacic up ahead. So I do expect that the trio becoming a quartet is definitely a thing. Senal as well in the Dexfin car could get involved in that battle for second if they start going side by side as well.
And Corny and Pechada doing battle once again. So he's looking at that potential podium spot from the Thrustmaster car. Lucas Pechada has been here many, many times before. Lucas a little bit too far back off the back of Kovacic to really benefit from any slipstream effect. But what will Corny do? Will he sit in that slipstream and pick his moment? He's certainly not trying to dive out from the wing, dive into the wing mirrors rather of the Thrustmaster car. He's not going to try and distract Lucas Pechada. He's a little bit too experienced for that, I suspect. Also, what I suspect is going on with the tyres, I'm not sure it's wear, I think it's heat that's more an issue. The track temperature was moderately high, but if you throw these cars around, whilst they do have drive race, they do have traction control. Well, there you go, there's a prime example of what I was just alluding to, of currently having to put a bit of opposite lock. There is still a fair amount of sliding that goes on in these things, and these tyres will get hot. But there you go, again, as he threw the car into the left-hander up at Piratella, you heard the sliding going on, which is very hard to see from the external shots, but the onboard actually highlights it very well, and Kovacic is being caught pretty fast by this particular pass. I wonder if Kovacic has overheated his tyres. He could have burned the best out of them. He may well need a tyre change. We won't see that from the external shots, unfortunately, if that continues, if that takes place. But Kovacic is losing pace. He's losing little bits here and there. But Lucas Pechada may not be able to push too hard to chase after him. He's got that ESET car really large in his mirrors. Our leader is in. So the Lenovo Legion car roughly about halfway in the race. So the Lenovo Legion pair going for a 50-50 split. As mentioned before, each driver... we have a flurry of pit stops going on. So the 50-50 split was 50-50-ish at this point. This is going to be interesting to see how quickly those two cars come back out. You would expect them to come out fairly quickly as the lead now goes over to Kovacic. So we'll see. Half the field are doing the 50-50 split. That's fair enough for the opening round. I expected more people to be doing that. Obviously the Mogul car was the exception to the rule, but if there was damage on that car, they may have felt it necessary to bring that one in. So, as a reminder, each driver must do minimum of 25%. So you can't have one driver hogging the seat for the entire race and just one lap or a minimal distance for the other driver. They can do 75-25. They can do any combination thereafter as long as each driver has done minimum 25%. But most people going for the 50-50 split. So I really look forward to seeing how things progress. Again, they may not have done the driver change at the moment. It does look like some of them haven't, as you can see, Lucas Pechada still in the Thrustmaster. The ESET car has changed. That has gone over to Martin Siratek, I think. There he is. Yes, so he has changed car. The TP-Link car hasn't changed. The Big Shot car has. That is now in the hands of also debutant in the series of Stepanovsky. And it looks like Carney is in the pits at the moment, so we'll see if he changes car. But Pastor's remained in the Lenovo Legion car. He's not wanting to get that. Well, why should he? He's done a cracking job in it. He does not want to hand the keys over. When he does, he will be handing that over to Pavel Rigel, who we have definitely seen in this series before. But Kovacic now has, he had a 5-second lead as the Benzino Orlan car and the Dextrin car both come in. Eric Vizi and Senol they're potentially handing them over. At the moment, they have brought their cars in. Kovacic really leading the way. So the pit stops are relatively short if nothing is wrong, including a driver change. The cars will vanish and reappear. Stefenko, now that's a name we all should recognise. Martin Stefenko, a late signing to this series, must be said, but a very welcome one.
Oh yeah, always great to have Martin back. Great to see that he's taking part in this year's races. He is certainly one of the most recognizable names in VGP and a very recognizable name in sim racing as a whole. So really fantastic to have him on the grid. Kovacic currently still leading the way, yet to come into the pits. We did see the Thrustmaster car eventually coming into the pits. I do wonder though about Pastor in the Lenovo Legion car. I wonder if that was intentional or if there was some sort of issue that they've experienced with the driver swap, and if that's going to cause any sort of issues. It looks like there's some excitement going on at the pit exit there, actually, on the run down towards turn one. Quite a few cars in the shot there, but continuing to focus on Kovacic, who's just making his way down towards Ravazza now. Once again, as we rapidly approach the halfway point of this 1 hour race, and will we see the Logitech car come into the pits at the end of this lap? I'm going to go ahead and say I think that we will. And we do indeed see Kovacic come in, and that is going to be Peter Kujela that's taking over in that Logitech car. So we'll be seeing that driver swap very shortly here, and I do believe that means the Lenovo Legion will be taking control of this race once again, taking the lead of the race. The Logitech probably going down into second position, one would imagine, but we'll have to see how all that shakes out. On board with the TP-Link car, excuse me, this is Sirotech in the ESET car, based on the color of it that I'm seeing. That bonnet certainly looks like the ESET color car that we're seeing, and just up ahead is the Benzina car. That's Stefenko. No, we're on board with the TP-Link. I apologize about that. We're on board with the TP-Link running behind Stefenko, going through that chicane and down the hill from one of the higher points on the circuit, descending down into the double left-handers. Very tricky trying to get the car straightened out and onto the brakes, and all slowed down for these left-handers. The Logitech with Kujela behind the wheel is moving in the pit lane, and the Thrustmaster of Pachata has already overtaken for second position. So Kujela is going to be coming out in third, it looks like. I don't think so. Yeah, there's Sirotech just coming through now. I don't think there's enough time between now and the first corner for Sirotech to even think about being alongside. So no, Sirotech's going to stay in fourth position. Kujela emerges in third place in that Logitech car, but not an absolutely massive gap to the Thrustmaster, which you could just see up the road. It's maybe a handful of seconds or so. We got to wait for the timing to update on that one, but it is definitely still looking close. We are still kind of wondering about Pastor, or at least I am. I didn't mean to speak for you, Chris, but I am still a bit curious about Pastor. Are we going to see Pavel Rigel take over? What's going on with the Lenovo Legion car? That could shake things up potentially later on.
Well, absolutely. I mean, something that does come to mind is if they're running a softer compounder tyre, that would also explain the pace difference, and also explain the need for another pit stop. He is going to have to book it. He is going to have to just go and build up that gap again. He's certainly got the pace to do it. How much tyre life he has left? Well, that's debatable. Generally, the hard tyres will kind of last through anything you throw them at in these GT3 cars. The softer one, well held, Taya, getting very lively on the exit of Variante Alta, but hanging on to the back of Stefenko, which is no mean feat whatsoever. You know, really the only man that ever was a major challenge as a regular to Stefenko was, of course, the multiple champion Michael Smiddle, who sadly has not returned to the series. So we will have a new champion, like it or not, at the end of the year. That's something else to look forward to. But I wonder how well Pastor is... well, he's doing a brilliant job. I mean, he's now... Those times have updated. So he is 22 seconds. The overall pit lane loss seems to be around about, I'm hazarding a guess, at around about 40-ish seconds. So he is going to have to really go. But of course, he can't go too far because 25% has to be done by the second driver. I think Pastor is going to have to come in again. Also, so does Bachada, because he's still in that car.
Yes.
We haven't seen David Bachada, I don't think, unless I've completely missed that. But I think the Bachada brothers haven't swapped over yet either. I'm sure
Correct.
it's been Lucas or...
Yeah, I believe so. It's been Lucas the entire time. But you could see it's now a 10-second gap between Pachada and Kujela. So I think essentially they, Pastor and Pachada both had much shorter pit stops compared to everybody else because everybody else was doing driver swaps. So it just adds a little bit to the pit loss time. So I think you're right. They may be going for an aggressive strategy when it comes to tires or fuels or fuel or both potentially. And that's just increasing their speed, and they're going to be doing a driver swap probably a little bit later on, sometime within the next 10 minutes though. I would expect is when I would expect to see the Thrustmaster and Lenovo Legion cars come in from their leading spots, and I think for sure they are going to lose those positions, but they are going to be absolutely rapid when they come back out on circuit. So certainly that is going to be potentially one to watch, one to keep an eye out for after they come out of the pits. On board with Stefanko, absolute veteran of the series, absolute legend in the world of sim racing, but it doesn't look like it's going to be Stefanko making the move. Actually, it looks like it's going to be Sirotech in the ESAT car. Can he get the inside line into turn one? He's just about got his nose alongside that Logitech car. They're into the braking zone. Later on the brakes is Sirotech, and he does move up ahead of the Logitech car. Now Stefanko is right behind Kujela as well, so he's going to have to worry about that. And actually right behind Stefanko is Mateja in the TP lane car, and that's actually another team that actually needs a driver change. Chris, we haven't seen Martin Kostulik yet.
Oh yes, very true. It has been Mateja all race long so far. That was well driven from Sirotech. A nice clean move to go through into that third position. Already has got himself a little bit of breathing space. I think that was Kujela was a little hesitant coming through the Tragade on the exit of Tamburello where that move occurred. You can't blame him for being a bit cautious, particularly in the opening rounds of this season. Of course, it goes through the year, but you never want to be losing points at any given time. But you know, you have an idea by this stage. Bearing in mind they've done practice times, and a lot of these guys have raced together in previous seasons, and maybe online as well in other sims. So you have an idea of where you realistically are in the pecking order. Kujela may well have decided not to fight Sirotech too hard. As they were coming down towards Tragado, you did see Kujela trying. Well, it looked like he had a bit of a thought to come back to the racing line, but it was too late. Sirotech was already in it. But I suspect he's going to lose a position to Stefanko here as Martin has hung on to the back of the Logitech car pretty well. And here we go again. Basically, it's going to be a carbon copy repeat of the move we've seen, unless Martin doesn't go for the move. I shouldn't think so. He's not gaining particularly quickly, interestingly. No, he didn't go for it. He could just be biding his time. Again, I wonder whether he wants to get the exit here. Ooh, wow, it looked like he was pushing pretty hard on the exit there of Tamburello, but he wants the exit really from here. Let's see what he does. Coming through the field, no chicane. He's going to try and ying that one on the inside of Tozer. No, he doesn't. Well, Martin knows what he's doing. He's been in this season since its inception, and he's been a champion in these parts. I certainly am not going to question his methods. You know, an esports veteran himself. So he... Oh, that's a problem. That's Sirotech in the ESAT car. Oh, no. What a shame. He went too hard into Piratella, it would seem. All that hard work gone. And that's another newcomer to the season. There's Vakulchik in the Dexfin car now, right on his case. Oh, what a shame. He was doing so well with Sirotech.
Yeah, it's just a small, very, very small mistake, and losing a lot of time and a lot of positions as a result of it as well, too. If it had been Pastor or Lucas Pichata that had made that mistake, they wouldn't have lost any positions at all, but unfortunately he was right at the head of that train of cars, so that, and it wasn't even a full spin, it was just a half spin. He was about perpendicular to the track or so about a 90-degree spin, just lost the back end, did his best to try and catch it, to try and counter it, but unfortunately it didn't work. Here comes Stefanko on what is now for third position, so this would be for a podium position for Martin Stefanko, and with Pichata and Pastor having to pit again, this potentially could be for the lead of the race with the inside line into turn 1, and Martin Stefanko takes what could be potentially the lead of this race. We will have to find out. Again, we are expecting some pit stops from the Lenovo Legion car, from the Thrustmaster car within the next 7 minutes or so as the time ticks down. They are moving very quickly, though, still going quite well. Stefanko up into third position with a fantastic overtake. As you said, Chris, he is a veteran of all sorts of racing games as well, too. I mean, we've seen him successful in Assetto Corsa. Here is that slide. Again, the back end just stepping out ever so slightly. He countered very well, did a great job to actually stop it when he did. That easily could have been a huge off into a barrier with massive damage. So the fact that Sirotech managed to hold on to that 6th place position to stay ahead of the Dexfin car of Vakulchik is definitely a sign that he's got some quick reaction times and was able to catch that and hold that. But look at this now. Stefanko out of Aqua Minerale, you can really see is starting to pull a gap to that Logitech car behind, with Kujela behind the wheel. I think Kujela is going to have to worry about that TP-Link car more so than the Benzina, as Martin Stefanko really taking off into the distance now.
He's wiggling his big toe a little bit more, is Martin Stefanko. He's decided now's the time to get on with it, as we are fast approaching the last 20 minutes of the race. In comes the Thrustmaster car again. So again, I wonder if that was whether they had a problem come driver change, or whether that was always their intention to leave it very late. There is Lucas going to hand over to brother David. There is Mattea in the TP-Link car on the back of the Logitech car. Lost track of who's chasing there. So Mattea then he's still got to come in now. If the pits decide that that's not necessary necessary damage to fix, they may well come back out with the rear wing still slightly reshaped like that. That's up to the driver and the team. That's up to their strategy, what damage they can fix. But some damage is necessary. Oh my goodness, I thought he was going to go for a very, very late lunge into Toza. But what we're seeing, I think we're seeing some very hot tyres from the TP-Link car, because he does seem very, very squiggly. Again, we saw, just as we cut to that onboard shot from Mattea, that he was giving it a fair amount of opposite lock, and there is Blaszek, who has had a pretty miserable race through no fault of his own. The Mogul car coming to grief very early on, and he's been left to take that. And now the Lenovo Legion car has come back in again. So that's put... wow, that late stop from Pichata has put it... So we do see David Pichata in the car now. He's now in 9th from 2nd. So that has not worked at all. Will it work for the Lenovo Legion car? I mean, fair play to them for trying something new. But if it's going to backfire that badly, and Blaszek's in the car in the pits again... as Pavel Rigel has taken over the Lenovo Legion car, if it's going to hit them that hard, that's going to put the Lenovo Legion car quite a way down. But if nothing else, this man's going to be interested to see that the leader of the race is in the pits.
Yeah, these are not Formula One pit stops. These pit stops take quite a while. Even the fast ones take quite a while.
Mattea's in.
Yeah, so I think those that are doing the one-stop strategy probably picked the right one. They can't quite push as hard. They might have to do a bit more fuel saving, a bit more saving of the tires. But Pavel Rigel in that Lenovo Legion car is going to reemerge a little bit further ahead than David Pichata in the Thrustmaster car. In fact, it is going to be 5th position, as we see Kostulik now taking over the TP-Link car in the pits at the moment and dropping down the order, of course, as they're stationary in the pit lane. Stefanko is indeed, as I mentioned before, Gt4 going to take over as leader of this race. And he's got a pretty sizable gap now down to Kojela in second position in that Logitech car. I imagine feeling pretty good. Stepanovsky in the big shot car now finds himself in sixth position after these late race pit stops with less than 20 minutes to go still in this race. It is absolutely flying by, and there is Kostulik, who has been one of my favorite drivers to kind of watch as he's grown over the course of the seasons. I still remember when Kostulik was new to the series and getting lapped, and now he's battling for podiums and all that kind of stuff. So it's great to see Kostulik making a return. It's great to see how much he's improved over the years and just grown as a driver. It's fantastic to see. But Stefanko at the moment looking very, very comfortable, you have to say, in that Benzina, way out in front at the moment, holding on to that first place position and just going very well. So maybe it makes sense now why he was being a little bit cautious with the overtakes. Maybe he just knew he really didn't need to necessarily make those overtakes happen on circuit. It seems that the Benzina team are looking very, very strong in terms of the setup and the strategy of the car, because of course the setup does come into that as well too. The way you set up the car is going to affect the amount of fuel that you use, the amount of grip that you have through the corners, the amount of heat that is generated by the tires and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely going to play a factor, no doubt about it. But Stefanko, at the moment, there it is. You can see the confirmation. Over 4 seconds is the gap down to Kujela in that Logitech car. As we have a look at Sirotech, who has moved up to third after those late race pit stops. So we still have a potential redemption arc on the cards for the ESET car.
Very much so, as Sirotech is now chasing Kujela up the hill from Toza. So hopefully he's learned from the mistake that he made earlier that dropped. I mean, he would have lost not necessarily a catastrophic amount of time, but it certainly would have dented the confidence. By the look of the replay, he went onto the grass as soon as he hit the brakes, just round the car went, and that then threw him off into the runoff area. But yeah, Marta Stefanko is just absolutely gone. And that's not tyres, that's his timing and his strategy that's done that one. Absolutely incredible stuff. So once again, an MS up front, and Kostelik's brought the TP car in again. Oh dear. So it looks like, sadly, he's going to be keeping the Mogul car at the back of the field a bit company as the race will come to a close. But this battle here with Kujela, as mentioned, a veteran of these parts, and newcomer Sirotech are really having a good old scrap for the second podium spot. That is a Kovarik, who's another newcomer. There is Korony. Oh dear. A lonely race, but may well be joined by Kostelik.
At least the Mogul is the car is looking a little bit better. I think they got some of that damage repaired while they were in one of those pit stops at least. I don't know if it was the most recent one or the one before that, but that Mogul car is looking a little bit healthier than one of the times that we saw it not that long ago. So maybe that will help them to push a little bit harder. But Kostulik is also going to go off the lead lap in that TP Link car, rejoining the battle for second position. Oh, that was a late move for Sirotech, going for the inside into that left-hander. Not quite working out for him. Kujela holds on to that second place position in the Logitech car for the meantime. About 15 minutes before the timer reaches 0, so not that much of a race still to go. So these guys are going to start getting more and more desperate as they run out of time. Sirotech running a bit wide at the corner that he spun at not that long ago. He's going to have to be careful about that, closing right up to the Logitech car, under braking as they head down the hill and back up it again out of Aqua Minerale. But I don't think he's going to be mounting any sort of attacks into the chicane. He's a couple of car lengths back, and it's not that long of a rundown anyway. As Chris mentioned before, attacking into this chicane is not advisable. Let's put it that way. We'll say not advisable on that one. It's a very tight chicane, and you're not going to pull ahead before you get into the braking zone, are you? Coming out of Aqua Minerale, best case scenario, you're going to be side by side, and again, it's very narrow.
The only way really you make a move into Variante Alta is if you've had a terrible exit from Aqua Minerale. It's the only way it really works, is if the guy chasing you has had a far better exit from those turns. And generally, if you are side by side when you go in, you're generally spun and in a big mess when you come out. So,
yeah.
However, Sirotech has done the slipstream. Can he slow that one down before he gets to Trigado? Yes, he does. Very nicely done. Once again, made that move stick. and through into second position for the ESET team. That is Stefanko at the top of the shot. That's what 7.5 seconds or 7.4 seconds looks like in these things. He is absolutely flying. Did we expect anything else from Martin Stefanko? No, we did not. But a great effort then. I'm really loving how the newcomers are making the established names work for it, and that's not to say that the established names are doing badly. They're doing it. Well, everyone is doing a great job, because these things, these GT3 cars, whilst they do have a lot of toys, they do have traction control, they do have ABS, and they will stick fairly well. But when you push them that little bit too far, they will give up on you, and they are very hard to catch.
Yes.
As mentioned earlier, tyre temperature is something they're going to have to manage as well in a track like this that is a very twisty technical track. If they're at a track like Monza, that tends to be more fuel heavy, and there's not a lot of braking and turning. Here is so much of braking, accelerating, quite heavy turning going on. So it's another aspect of the race that these guys need to manage. And again, look at Sirotek. There is some pace in that ESET car. Very good effort there.
Yeah, that's actually an impressive gap, considering he made the overtake less than a lap ago and already has built that. But having a look at Kovarik in 8th position, trying to defend from Corny as they're getting into Aqua Minerale now. And I would imagine he's going to be staying ahead for the meantime. He doesn't get the best of exits, though, and here they go. They are going to be side by side, inside line for Kovarik. Corny going to try and go around the outside, which is going to be very difficult to do. Oh, I do say that was about as well as you could expect to take that chicane side by side. So I tip my hat to both of them, because that was always going to end in some form of contact, and the fact that it was that light is actually pretty impressive. So I imagine Corny not super thrilled, or Kovarik not super thrilled about that, or Corny, but they continue on. No major damage for either car at the very least. Stefanko also making his way into Aqua Minerale, but no other cars needed to worry about for this Benzina. It is a almost now 8-second gap between the Benzina and ESET cars. So it's looking pretty comfortable at the moment for Martin Stefanko, one-time champion of Virtual GP, and I'm sure he's going to be feeling pretty good at the moment with that size of a gap, and especially with only 11 and a half minutes remaining on the clock.
Yeah, he can almost ignore Top Gear at this point, as he is really in his element, burning up the miles, chewing through the corners. I'm sure he'll continue to push, but Stefanko knows how well this car operates. He knows this simulator. He knows what he's doing. If he doesn't get fast as that won't really bother him too much. He would like it, but he's not going to push just to get it. Even though there is a bonus point available for it, he will much rather take the win and not risk it. As Sirotek, look at the gap he's got for himself already. That is absolutely amazing stuff. Is Sirotek, is he going to chase off after Stefanko? I mean, he was, I think, about half a second slower than Stefanko last time around, which again is nothing to scoff at. There is the Benzina Orlan car at the top of the shot. That is Kujela in the background. So that is about 2 seconds that Sirotek has opened up for himself already. So Kujela may well have just opted to bring the car home. We're getting to the closing 10 minutes of the race. They don't want to do anything silly at this point to throw it away. Like I said, Kovarik rather proving exactly what I was talking about not 5 minutes ago, trying to go side by side through Variante Alta. I think it was actually Kostlik in the TP Link car trying to unlap himself from that. So we saw the number 10 on the top. Well, from our perspective, it's the top left of the windscreen. You'll see it as we go to a front shot. That's the Dexfin car. There's the number 4 in the top left as we're looking at it of the windscreen. That's their position. Of course, as we're looking at car number 68, that's their position number that updates at the end of the lap. And Kovarik was having a fight with 10th position, which is Kostlik. So if that was the case, then Kovarik will feel even more aggrieved that wasn't a position that, and he didn't lose the position, so it was actually Kostlik he was fighting with. So Kostlik trying to unlap himself, which of course he's allowed to do as long as he does not disrupt the activity of the car he's trying to unlap himself, which I think you can argue did happen. However, there are stewards that inquiries that go on during and post-race. So if any penalties are to be applied, that is up to the stewards to deal with. There is David Pichada, the second of the Pichada brothers in the Thrustmaster car, doing what he can. Just saw, I think it was Stepanovsky in the Big Shot car, just go through the shot there. There is about 15-ish seconds between. Yep, there is the his next target down the road. So it's been a fairly standard race, really. I mean, the Thrustmaster car has been through the pits twice. We did see Lucas have a few fights early on, but David picking up the reins in the tail end of the race to bring that one home. The Pichada brothers have been with the Thrustmaster team for a few seasons, so it's good to see that. It's good to see that established force return, and not a bad start to the season.
And I gotta say, this 2020 livery on the Thrustmaster car, I'm a big fan of. I like the striping down the side. Big fan, actually. I think that's probably one of my favorite. I know it was the Acer last season that we were really falling in love with, but I think the Thrustmaster might be a solid contender for livery of the season, at least on these Mercedes AMG GT3 cars, looking absolutely fantastic out there. The Big Shock looking good as well. Stepanovsky currently holding on to 6th position. They're on that one-stop strategy. Only one of the two stoppers is ahead of them, and that is the Lenovo Legion that was once leading this race. And unfortunately for Lenovo Legion, I should say, I don't think that's really worked out for them. They might pick up 4th position, and that's a big might. It's a pretty sizable gap between the Dexfin and Lenovo Legion cars at the moment for 4th position, and we're really running out of time. Less than 7.5 minutes remaining on the clock. Martin Stefanko in that number 99 Benzina car looking very strong out at the front. You can see a last lap of 1:42.0. That is a very competitive lap time, especially considering how far into this stint Stefanko is running at the moment. So there we can see the gaps on the screen on the left-hand side. You can see it's actually just over 6 seconds between the Dexfin and Lenovo Legion car. So they're going to have to make up more, about a second per minute. So we're looking at about 1.8 seconds per lap is what Pavel Reigl needs to put in order to try and overhaul that Dexfin car for 4th position. That is a big ask, I think. I'm not saying Pavel Reigl isn't capable of that, but Vakulchik seems to be going pretty well. Now, that is a very late pit stop, though, for the Big Shock car of Stepanovsky. Was in 6th position, has already lost 1 position to David Pichada in the Thrustmaster car, who already overtook on the start-finish straight. We'll have to keep an eye out to see if Stepanovsky is going to lose even more positions as a result of this very late pit stop. But I have to assume, Chris, that's probably a mistake on the strategy for the Big Shock team to be coming into the pits with less than 7 minutes to go.
It was a quick stop as well, so it was either a mistake or I was wondering if there was damage, but he wasn't in the pits long enough for that for that to be the case. And Stefanko is in.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Now that I didn't see coming. With less than 6 minutes to go, the race leader is in, so maybe one stop is just not possible. Maybe the tyres are actually overheating or wearing out. I did think the tyres wouldn't wear that badly, but I'll stand corrected if that was certainly the case. As we see the ESET car come in, the Dexfin cars come in. Did not expect that. So Kujala is going to take over the lead of the race in the Logitech car, and Pavel Reigl. Well, you did say he was going to have to. Well, he's had some luck in his stride. If he's now going to take over second, Stefanko comes back out in 3rd with 5 minutes remaining. That's going to be 3-ish laps, and that's quite a gap that he's going to have to overhaul if he wants to be further up the podium.
Yeah.
Didn't see that coming.
No. Yeah. I think we're both a bit stumped here, if we're being totally honest with the viewers at home. We're both a little bit surprised about this one. Of course, we don't get told ahead of time, oh, this is going to be the hard and firm strategy, what to expect, that kind of stuff. Nope. I mean, we have general ideas of how big the tanks are and how much fuel they use and how long the tires will go, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is a very confusing one for us, but that makes things very interesting. Again, Kujela in that Logitech car has taken the lead, less than 4.5 minutes still to go in this race, and I have to imagine that the Logitech car is going to stay out, or at least I would imagine that they would like to stay out if at all possible. Not exactly flying around at the circuit. You can see the last lap of 144.2, more than 2 seconds slower than what we saw was being put in by Stefanko. Of course, that was, as it turns out, on low fuel, so I'm not entirely sure about that one. Pavel Rigel, though, putting in a 143.0, so going more than 1 second a lap quicker than Kujela up the road. So with that much time left, it's difficult to say, but I would say at the moment, I think that gap is too big. I certainly think the gap is too big for Stefanko as well. At the moment, as you can see, the gaps have updated at the top left-hand side of your screen. You guys can see just exactly what these drivers are looking at. So it is currently 14 seconds between Kujela and Rigel. Then it's another 7 seconds down to Stefanko in third position. Sirotech now holding on to fourth, but with a 16-second gap, and with David Pichata in fifth position, about 4 seconds adrift of that ESET car, and that's how it's looking in the top 5 at the moment. Pretty sizable gaps. Everybody is spread out quite a bit after the more than 55 minutes of racing that we've had so far here from Imola for the opening round of the Virtual GP 2020 season with the brand new format on iRacing as well. And we are doing our best with the situation that's going on in the world, and hoping to provide you guys with some fantastic action here in the virtual world of motorsports. But at the moment, Chris, with less than 3 minutes to go, Kujela with now, well, it's the gap is coming down. Again, Rigel is lapping quicker, but there's just not enough time left on the clock, so it's looking like as long as Kujela keeps everything pointing in the right direction, knock on wood, he's going to be coming home for the W here.
I'm pretty sure that was fuel that forced Stefanko in. He wasn't in long enough to take a tire stop. That takes about 20 seconds or so. In these cars, he was not in the pits long enough. That had to have been a splash and dash. If that was the case, I'm surprised he didn't back off. He had plenty enough gap to back off and maybe eke out. Maybe he wasn't convinced he could eke out anywhere near enough. If he was 3 or 4 laps short, yeah, he would have lost a huge amount of time. Would he have lost a pit stop's worth of time? Well, we'll never know. Now, as he's taken it, he's opted not to go for it. So Kujela and look at his last lap time, 45. I bet you he's fuel saving.
Yep.
Or he's wanting that checkered flag to fall before he gets there. That's going to be a tricky one to play. And Stefanko, now in the 41s, he is absolutely flying. But doesn't this rather prove never give up? How many times did we say this in previous seasons? In anything you and I have worked on, that is something we've always said at some point. Never give up. And I can't believe Kujela was looking at Stefanko thinking he's going to pit. He probably was thinking he wants him to, or fall off the road or something, because let's face it, races are races. But I bet you Kujela is being very, very delicate with that right foot.
Oh, yeah, I think no doubt about it. Again, the only car out there that is still on the one-stop strategy, and it seems to have paid off for this Logitech team, who now hold a sizable gap and are leading the race with only a minute to go on the clock, plus 1 lap, of course. So it's looking like it's not gonna be this lap that the timer runs out. I do believe that Kujela is gonna make it back around one more time. So it's gonna make things a little bit more complicated, but it is a just ticked under 10-second gap between Kujela and Rigel. So Rigel pushing very hard. Stefanko as well. I think, what was it, a 20-second gap to the leader that Stefanko had previously? It's now down to less than 15.5 seconds. We know how fast Stefanko is going. Let's see what the new lap time is for Kujela. Hopefully we'll stay on board with him and we can find out what the latest lap time is. It could be even slower. It is. It's a 146.3, and the timer has it worked out perfectly. This is the final lap for Kujela. He's got a 9-second gap. If he can put in even like a 152, I think he's going to be okay here. It doesn't need to be a quick lap.
He is staring at that fuel gauge, just willing it not to hit the bottom at the moment. He's got enough time back to Rigel and certainly to Stefanko to not worry about it. These things start to splutter when they're at the bottom of the fuel tank. I thought the engine had died there. I was like, oh no, surely not. But Rigel 42.8, so Pavel Rigel does not have that kind of worry. That's the Autoscope Nova car of Kodiak that you can see at the top of the shot there. So that's not for position. I have seen it before where someone has nearly come to a stop on the start-finish line waiting for the timer to click down to 0 for the checkered flag to come out. Kujala has done the better thing and then continued to do a lap, but let's hope he's got enough fuel to get there, because it's quite clear he is sucking the bottom of the tank at the moment. He's got about 3 corners left to get into the checkered flag, and these things are pretty heavy. He does not want to push, so he doesn't want to get out and have to push this thing Nigel Mansell style over the line. So we come through the last few turns. I think he's pretty much coasting there with enough time, but what a way to kick the season off.
That is a fantastic result. The one stop working, an absolute treat for the Logitech team, and that is going to be the victory by, it's going to probably be less than 6 seconds with how fast Pavel Reigl is going in the Lenovo Legion car. Martin Stefanko might even get that gap down to less than 10 seconds as he crosses the line, and it is going to be not quite less than 10 seconds, but Stefanko was pushing very, very hard and will pick up a podium, as does the Lenovo Legion car of Reigl, one-time leaders of this race. All 3 of those guys leading the race at different points. The Logitech, Lenovo, and Benzina teams. I have to say, a fantastic job from ESET as well to pick up 4th position despite that half spin as well. In the end, I don't think that half spin actually played any sort of role in their finishing position, because despite it, they still finished ahead of Thrustmaster, and without it, I don't think they would have been any closer to Stefanko. So in the end, a solid result for them. Pachada doing very well. Stepanovsky, Vakulchik, Kovarik, Koreny, and Kostulik in the end rounding out the final positions. And here is the podium. Again, it is the Logitech drivers of Kovacic and Kujala that take the win. Lenovo Legion in 2nd position with Pastor and Reigl, and the Benzina drivers of Stefanko and Vizzy ending up on the podium in 3rd position, with ESET, as I mentioned, in 4th. Very good result for their first race. Thrustmaster with the top 5. They're in the top half of the grid, which is great for them. Big Shock, I would say, solid day for them today. They should be happy about that. Dexfin, Nobe, and Mogul, and TP Link. In the end, Mogul, though, finishing ahead of TP Link, interestingly enough.
So the driver standings, as you would rather expect, Kovacic and Kujala at the top, Pastor, Reigl in there with 3rd and 4th, Stefanko, Vizzy take 5 and 6th, Koreny and Siratek take 7, 8, and the Pachada brothers take the 9 and 10 positions. So this will obviously become much more mixed up as the season progresses. There's Stepanovsky in Horror 11-12, Senol and Vakulchik in 13-14, Zikra and Kovarik 15-16, Blazek, Koreny 17-18, and Mateja and Kostulik taking the tail end of the positions. But the established names taking the lion's share of the prizes, but all credit to everybody involved.
Impressive stuff. Logitech, though, leads the way in the championship, as you would assume, but followed pretty closely by Lenovo Legion after this opening round here at Imola. Benzina holding on to 3rd position, and as we've said before, never give up, which is why Mogul is in 9th instead of 10th. They were all the way down in last position at one point and managed to claw back up a position. That is going to do it for the opening round of the Mercedes-Benz Virtual GP 2020 season. We hope to see you next time for round 2 at Daytona. For myself and Chris, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.